Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Marcus. Hey, everybody. So in today's video, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at the EOS R5 versus the GFX 100S. I wasn't really going to do this video initially, but a lot of people asked me. A lot of people were curious about this, believe it or not. So it's kind of an unfair thing, two different, horses for courses, but we're going to do IAF, continuous single shot tracking, looking at high ISO, how they perform, dynamic range tests, and just regular exposure, and taking the shots in and trying to edit them briefly. I'm gonna give you all the raw files to download, so it's going to be a complete kind of comparison to see what I think about both. I want to know what you guys think, so leave your comments down below. So the only thing I asked you to do before we get into this is watch my course trailer here. It's on sale this week. Please go to ProPhotoEdits.com where you can download my Lightroom presets and Photoshop actions. And I just want to remind you guys of my online creative lighting and editing courses up right now. I get asked about this every single day on Instagram. If you're not following me, the link will be down below. But how do you get these in-camera effects? I don't do any of this in Photoshop. This is all done in camera. So I put 12 courses in here, 12 different photo shoots, and I explain what tools I use to get these looks in camera. And I usually just use one light. Sometimes I use one light and one LED, but I don't have a dynamic lighting setup. Everything you're looking at here right now is explained in the course. We're over, I think, 300 or 400 people in the course right now, so it's really growing and people are really happy with this. And we've just added some extra things that you're looking at right now with the light throwing technique, all done in camera. So you get the raw files, the Lightroom presets, the Photoshop actions, screen recording. I have me editing these looks that you're looking at now, and I've also included a new creative gelling course to get you these looks like this in camera, so consider that. Alright, so this gets to the most unfair comparison of the day. The R5 high speed plus continuous max frames per second, IAF on face detect. I probably took 45 shots right there with her walking a lot faster than you're going to see her walking on the GFX in the next thing. And I'm not even going to play these back to you even at 1.2 because you just have to take my word for it. I didn't miss a shot. It's going to be too long to do this in the video. But look, it's not really blacking out at all. Once in a while it'll do that little flash on the screen, but it was shooting that whole time. And I never miss a shot. It's just one of the main reasons why I have this camera. So with the 100S in high speed continuous mode, tracking IAF on, face detect on, I had her walking slowly towards the camera, a lot more slowly here because I wanted to give it a fair shake. But if you watched last week's video, and I'll put some of these on the screen to let you see in Lightroom in hyperspeed. You have to take my word for it to watch last week's video because I don't want this video to be very long. It surprised me. I took about 20 shots of her walking slowly like this with the 81.7, which is a pretty slow lens, the slowest of the bunch that I have. And out of like 23 shots, I think I missed 2 or 3. That was very impressive considering the GFX 50S2 that I actually own. Fuji loaned me the 100S, and I actually want it now. And this is a faster rendition of you seeing the results of how it's hitting all these as she's getting closer. It was very surprising because usually I don't do that. I never do continuous on the 50S2 because it's contrast detect, and I just put the point where I want it, have it on rapid AF, and then take my shot. But never any motion, right? You just can't get away with it. On the 100S2 and continuous, you can actually get away with it. The 100S, sorry, it's not an S2. There's not that yet. I don't know anything about that, and don't quote me on that. But on the 100S, you can actually get away with it if you're going slow speed in certain scenarios. I was incredibly surprised at the hit rate. So just let me say that. It's the first medium format camera that you can actually do that at some capacity. Okay, so the R5, look at the blackout time. This is in single shot. This is generally how I use this. And I do use IAF on the R5 a lot because it's so incredibly accurate, and it just works. I can't tell you the last time I missed a shot. If I did, it was my fault. Setting the shutter speed too low or something like that. But you can see the blackout time is pretty much like non-existent. Even in single shot, it's always sticky. It's always there, and a complete joy to use. And we're going to look at the files here in a second and see what the main difference is here. Okay, single shot, we're going to still image, we're going to single shot, continuous off, just AFS, and face and eye detect on the GFX 100S. I was surprised it was pretty accurate. These things make me kind of nervous because I'd rather just hit the shot and frame it the way I want. But just for, you know, what you want to see here, face and eye detect on the 100S has came a long way if you're still used to the 50 series, even the 50S2. And look, you can see blackout time is much improved, right? It's not perfect by any stretch, but it's the first medium format camera, and albeit 100 and what, 1 or 2 megapixels, it actually works to an extent. Slower speed, slower pace shots and shoots is where I would use this if I had to. I generally wouldn't use this, and this is a 110 f2 that we're looking at right now, so it's a faster lens. Sometimes it'll give you that readout where it's not really like tracking the eye. It doesn't say it kind of loses it, but when you look at the files on playback, 99% of them were actually in focus on the eye, except for the ones where it clearly wasn't. But very good hit rate. First time I've seen that on IAF on a Fuji system medium format. So I'm gonna let you look at one more through the lens footage here and show you why I like the R5 so much for people that like to move a lot and just, you know, everyday usage. You see it's sticky. The blackout is pretty much non-existent. I can hit all these shots. I don't have to worry about it missing. And I'm trying to just get micro movements. I know it looks kind of herky-jerky, but I'm just trying to show you what, you know, the case use for this is. Just trying to get that moment. Now I'm going back in between infinity and back, and you can just see it's just like butter how quick it goes. Now in the 100S, yeah, it's slower pace, faster pace than the GFX 50S2, even with rapid AF on, and pretty accurate. The blackout is still something that's, you know, not where I wish it was, but all things considered, this is with the 1.7 80 millimeter, and it's just getting a slower lens, but I'm having her see that she's moving slower, and because I asked her to. Now infinity back, infinity back, infinity back. So it's obviously slower, and I hope this is giving you, you know, most people already know this, but it's a slower speed camera. Let's look at the files, and then we're going to see what I really try to drive home all the time: medium format's strengths. Okay guys, so let's get into these files. I'm going to do the same thing I did last week on the GFX 50S2 versus the GFX 50S, sorry, the GFX 100S. A lot of different bodies in here, a lot of numbers. Alright, so I'm going to do underexposed, overexposed. We're going to bring them back, test the dynamic range, the latitude. We're just going to do some color comparisons, how they grade, and high ISO shots and noise. Alright, so let's start here with this shot, and this is an underexposed shot on the R5 85 1.2 RF, the new lens that they have. Well, it's a couple years old now, but it's really good. And I'll give you these files as well, and you can test them out yourself, and we're going to compare this to the 100S. Just so we're going to go to the maximum amount of push that we can have, and I'll show you where this came out. So this is an underexposed shot by a decent amount. You can see all the data is like right down here and just a little on that. And all I did here was pull the highlights down, shadows up, whites up, blacks up. I adjusted the color balance a little bit because it came out of camera like that. So this, look at it and see, you know, it's not bad. The R5, as I've said before, is better than a lot of the other Canons. It looks pretty good to me. So let's see what we're going against here, and I'll compare them on the underexposed shot with the GFX 100S, and then we'll compare them side by side. Alright, so show you where this started, and where I brought it back to. I just copied and pasted this exact same little recipe here, the exact same amount. Alright, so you can obviously tell, and I'll put these side by side, there's more colors, there's more depth, more contrast. The 100S is one hell of a camera, dude. I kind of want it now that I have my 50S too, and just the ease of use. I think I'm going to trade up for that soon. So let's just look at these together, and then we know we've pushed them the same exact amount, and compare mode, and then we'll see what the actual differences are. This over here on the left, the GFX 100S file, was taken with the 110 f2, another incredible stellar lens. So I mean, it's obvious the R5 file is still loading, but in the dynamic range department, to me, it's totally obvious who wins there. You can see over here there's already more noise, there's less contrast, the colors aren't nearly as good, but that's even for a correctly exposed shot. The colors aren't as separated as on any GFX body. This looks like it wasn't ever underexposed, and it came from far down, as you just saw. This, I'd have to pump things a bit to get it there, and you can already see that it's losing some it's getting kind of gray in the hair. Alright, so let's do some high ISO comparisons here real quick. We're going to start at 5,000 on the R5, and I did 4,000 on the 100S, and then 10,000 on each. So if we go in here to this file at 5,000 on the R5, you can download these and check them out. I'm not going to spend a ton of time. You can see that the grain is nice and soft. Still have some definition there. It's a nice file still. 4,000 or 5,000, sorry, is very usable. I'm going to go in here to the 4,000 shot, ISO 4,000 on the 100S, and let you see. I can't do these and compare because it doesn't load as much, and you can see it handles this. It handles the ISO just better, high ISO. You can't see it as much on the GFX 100S, which is strange considering it's a much higher megapixel sensor, and sometimes those struggle, but they've done a phenomenal job of really keeping the ISO nice. Alright, so ISO 10,000 on the 100S, and let's go in and see. Now you can finally see you can starting to see the ISO if you're watching this in 4K. Still pleasing though. I could get rid of that with a little bit of luminance on the slider, or if you wanted to use like a denoise. I don't know why you'd ever really go above 10,000. I know some people said they do sometimes, but that's definitely usable. There's still a lot of data there. So let's go back here to the 10,000 file on the R5, ISO 10,000, and you can see it's starting to fall apart. I wouldn't use that, honestly. You have to go down here and noise reduction, turn that up, and then it gets you somewhere where you could start using it. But see how soft it got? It got really soft. It almost looks like you have some type of halation filter on there. So ISO, in my opinion, is the winner, is the 100S. Totally my opinion, but I think you're still getting a lot more color. At 10,000, we'll go back to the 100S real quick. Natural color there, and then the grain, if you go in, is softer, more natural, and there's still a lot of sharpness under there. Now if I pull this noise reduction up just a touch, I can get rid of that, just take the edge off of it, and still have a decent amount of sharpness there. So the ISO, I wasn't expecting to be that great on something that was 101 or 2 megapixels, whatever it is. Insane to me. Alright, so let's just look at the actual colors in some of these shots. Raw files, same exact shots, same scenario, and see what we think about just medium format color versus like the R5 color. Okay, so I think this is where we're going to see what the magic of the GFX is and why it's just incredible to me. Alright, so this was, I did the same exact things and I had to try to match the R5 to the GFX file as well as I could, but it's impossible. They edit different. I can this straight out of camera, and then I just did the similar thing that I did over here, and I'll put them side by side. Alright, okay, now watch. Reset. This is the 100S look at all that color, and I'll put these side by side. Didn't push these hard at all. It's just natural, 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 natural. I could keep pushing. Watch this. I just keep going down, and it doesn't ever get like weird. I mean, I'm going way too high on the exposure there, and I necessarily wouldn't do that. I'd pull the blacks up a little bit there and mess with the whites, and the shadows are up, and you can see, and it's still a nice it's still a very nice, I could probably pull the whites up a little bit, it's still a very nice rounded file, and the color separation is really good. And you know, I hate red brick against skin greens in my photos. I was just taking these photos for a comparison. I would have put different colors in the frame had this been a real shoot in a different location, because setting yourself up for success with the files is, you know, kind of key. And let's come back here and compare this to the R5 file. R5 on the right, 100S on the left. Now you can kind of see here, not a bad file at all, but you can definitely tell that you're losing separation here and the colors of the skin tone versus the lips. Once that 100S loads, that's the thing that you're going to have to deal with, is the files take forever to load. There's still a lot more color over here, and I think it's discernible that this is more of a natural skin tone than this is turning orange. And when I do these screen recordings, full disclaimer, it makes things look a little even more orange than they are. These files look really good on my end. I don't know what happens whenever this goes on YouTube, but I always notice it looks a little bit like it's over orange. I think this I'd have to adjust a little bit more with a tweak and the calibration if I wanted to match that, but I'd be sacrificing one for the other. I'd have to go back in Photoshop and do some extra lip work, which would be easier than doing the skin work. But see how much this is just alive, and this is more falling into the colors. There's not 16-bit color, there's not that much color separation. I want to go back in here and show you real quick, when you start pushing the R5 file, what happens. And you started here, just did a few things, and if you start messing around with it, see how you can, you know, not make it as warm. But the problem is you want the photo to be a little bit warm, and I could tweak it a touch, so then you go in here to where the skin tones live. But there's so much data lumped together in full frame files, and that the skin tone, the lips, and several other things here are all adjusting as one, which makes it a little bit harder. See how much orange she gets when I pull the saturation up on the skin there. It makes it harder to, and I did some split toning stuff here to try to just salvage once you start tweaking. It's a wild game trying to match these files, because it's impossible. There's not as much data. I mean, you kind of have to do the edit that matches your camera better. Again, I told you this was kind of crap light, so now you're going in here and you're pushing these things around trying to get the skin out. I think that's a bit more natural, and we can look at that again. But it's just so easy. I didn't have to do any of that with the 100S. And then let's look again here and just see 100S here on the right. Got a little bit closer over here with the R5, but you can still see that she's all one color. Over here she has gradients in her skin, and her lips are red. Her hair is, you know, doesn't have any of the orange going into it. There's more depth to her hair. Doesn't have a green cast to it at all. So it's less editing work. Eventually I could work with this R5 file and get it similar. You know what I mean? I usually don't ever try to match the two, because why? But it's so easy with the 100S. You can pull shots up from crap light, underexposed, and the color is still there. You're not losing, and the highlights over here are harsher, right? This is still nice and kind of soft in the back, and now you're starting to get a little bit harsher over here when you start to push and pull. You can see that the highlights here on the leg are already getting close to clipping. None of that. So I hope that helps drive the point home a little bit about the file, what you can expect from medium format and why people love it so much. So everybody, I'd love to hear your opinions on this. Have you jumped into the medium format game? Do you love it? Do you have both like I do, just because like 2 different flavors of ice cream and you really love both flavors, and you know it's better than owning 2 full frame bodies because you got 2 of the same similar thing. Plus you can adapt a bunch of different full frame lenses on here, and you know, get even shallower depth of field if that's your thing, some vignetting there. But there's several people that I follow that I really love their results for that. So let me know all your comments down below, and download these raw files. That's why I gave them to you, so you can actually compare. And I have another set in there where it's overexposed, bringing the latitude back down, that I didn't get to in here because I'm trying to keep this short. I love you guys. Until next week, it's Marcus. We'll get back into some creative stuff. Remember, if you're interested in my class, this week's Black Friday sale is the lowest it's going to be ever. So I hope you go check that out. And until next week, it's Marcus. I love you guys. See you later.